Thanks everyone for joining. We're super excited to have Cass with us here this weekend. We did a tasting with Cass last year at some point. It was really great. The wines are superb. The region it's coming from is one of our favorites. And when we reached out to Cass, they were super excited and didn't hesitate for a second to jump in and say, yeah, let's do it. So big thanks to them. On the line I have with us, coming from the winery, I have, let me unmute you guys there. I've got Ted Plemons, who is the owner and I say partier of the winery. And with him, I believe, is Meegan, Huff, who is the national sales manager. On the line, I also have my good friend Guy Bell from Virginia Imports. You guys might know Guy. And Cheryl Zemo, who represents Bronco Wine Company, who brings Cass wines to Virginia Imports, who gets them to us. Of course, if you can wave at Jeff McGinness coming in from the corporate office in Iowa. He's here to join us. Say, hey, thanks for joining in, Jeff. And of course, at the end, we'll save a couple minutes for my friend Tommy to sing us a song. So I want to jump in. Let me make sure I can unmute my friend Ted here. Let's see, unmute. Hope this works. Can everybody hear Ted? All right, talk amongst yourselves while I figure this out, guys. Sorry. Yeah, for some reason it's not unmuting, which could be bad.
Okay.
I think we...
You guys in?
Can you hear us now?
Now I can.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're using a different microphone. We have a pretty sophisticated setup here. So we've got a camera there and microphone here. So as long as you can hear.
The only thing is I can't get you on main speaker, but that's okay. We'll figure this out. So, all right, let's get started. Everybody has their wines. I hope they have the whites and the rosés chilled, the reds opened and ready to go. I'm going to pass it over to, I'm going to save my news for later if we have time, and we'll just get straight to the wines. I want to pass this over to my good friend Ted. Ted, you were at the store a couple months back, and we had a nice chat, and we talked about doing this face-to-face live. And I was really happy that you were jumping on board with this. This is exciting. I hope you like it.
I'm in.
Go ahead. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Can
right.
you hear me?
I can hear you. So why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about the winery for a few minutes, and then just jump into the wines.
Yeah, I love that. The thing I like to do with people that maybe haven't been to Cass or had our wines before is to tell you the story about it, because it's really truly why the wines are how they are. My partner planted this vineyard in 1999, brought over the first on-top clones from France, and planted this 142-acre vineyard. Steve hired me to build a building, which is now our winery, and I convinced him that I'd be a good partner. Well, so in August '02, we bought a pallet of South African wine at the Hospice de Rhone, which is a Rhone event here in Paso Robles. And that's 54 cases, guys. Enjoyed the heck out of it. Well, January '03, we became guests of a guy named Charles Back, Fairview Winery, Paarl, South Africa. And Steve and I went over for a month. Well, what I kept hearing that whole month was Old World. And I grew up in Paso Robles, so I knew all about the wines that were coming in out of here. But the last 2 nights we're in Stellenbosch, we're drinking Syrah. He says, no, we were ripped on Syrah. And I said, partner, let's open a winery. The birth of Cass, very Syrah-induced decision. But on the serious note, what I wanted to do is to come back to Paso, my hometown, and make wines that were old world vineyard driven. So we were an anomaly right off, and now it's been almost 15 years of making wine. Now people are doing what we do. So the wines you're gonna taste through are gonna be very varietal-like, and we let the vineyard dictate what we do. I like Sterling's my winemaker, but I like him not to have to do that much, because the better we farm, the better the wine. So for instance, this first wine, does everybody have Mr. Blanc? So the quick little story about this, we have Roussanne, Marsanne, Viognier varietals, and we make a stainless steel free run of those, meaning there's no press juice. Well, what was press juice? What was left in the press we put into a tank, and we used to make a shiner, meaning no label. Well, my partner and I were drinking one evening, and I go, partner, we should make a wine out of that. And I go, let's call it Mr. Blanc. Well, guess what? The first year we made it, 370 cases, sold out like that, huh, Cheryl? And now it's one of our main wines in distribution. This year it's Roussanne heavy, about 52%, 24% Viognier, 20% Roussanne. And I hope that equals 100, but it's real close to that. It's a beautiful, beautiful white wine. And it used to be Shiners. Now we sell it and call it Mr. Blanc. So I hope you guys are enjoying it.
Cheers.
So
Cheers.
We're going all stainless steel here. Is that correct?
Yeah, totally stainless steel, and actually a very cold fermentation. Very cold stainless, yes.
So I've always found that Roussanne, Marsanne, Viognier, those types of Rhone varietals in the whites kind of are a great alternative to Chardonnay. So those people who are bored with Chardonnay, I think those varietals are a great alternative, which is, I was happy to see that you had this in stock. I really enjoy it.
Well, you know, the Marsanne, which is most unheard of, there's only like 160 acres planted in California. It is the most Chardonnay-like of all of them. So when you blend it together, you get this beautiful structure of a Chardonnay with these beautiful Rhone aromas, you know.
Very nice. Hands up, who likes this one? There we go. All right, very nice. All right, so let's move on to the next wine, if we will. The Oasis Rosé.
Yeah, I love, there you go, see that right there? Well, first of all, the name, I named it Oasis because Cass Winery is an oasis in the wilderness. You know, we're 10 miles from town. One of the things we do here at Cass is we feed people. We have food. We have chefs on staff. I raise the beef we serve in the restaurant. We have our own gardens, our own chickens. So it's an oasis. Now,
you raise the beef. You got cattle?
Yeah, right on the ranch, my friend.
Oh, cool.
And you know, our burger is not just grind, it's prime rib, ribeye, everything put in, but there's a thing called fat. You know, farm to table is not necessarily healthy, it's just really good. So just remember that. So let's talk about rosé, because this is fun how our rosés sort of changed. Back in 16, you know, the basic way to make a rosé is called a saignée. And here's what you do. Say, grow a Mourvedre grape. This is primarily Mourvedre. And you're growing that grape to make a red wine. Well, what you do, you bring it in, you destem it, you put it into a tank and chill it for cold soaking. And at that point, you drain off some juice, the saignée. You make a rosé. Well, the problem with that method is you're basing your rosé on a grape you're growing to make a red wine. Ripeness, everything about it. Well, now we actually purposely picked the Mourvedre and Grenache just to make this wine. And that's why I call it more Provence in a glass. We can control the acidity, the color, every part about it. And notice how beautiful it is, guys. So let's have a sip. You can go to Vandal and sit there and you can't drink a better rosé than this one right here. And you know, don't tell them that, by the way.
It's a little bit darker than some of the rosés we're finding coming out of Provence and Europe.
But it's really light compared to what's coming out of California.
Right.
You know. You guys like it?
So it's not super hot here yet. I think people are tired of hearing me say that the hotter it gets out, the better rosés taste. So I think once the temperature goes up a little bit, this is going to be really special.
And you know, another thing about rosé is it's like overdone now. There used to be a little store in the store, a little 3x3. Now it's complete rows of rosé. There's so many of them now.
Oh yes. All right, Guy, you've got your hand up. Do you want to say something? No? Okay. Sorry. All right. So should we move on to the GSM? We're doing great on time, I think.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
So just so you know, guys, we brought in a bunch of the wine and we're selling kits along the way. And we got our last delivery in on Friday. And since then, a bunch of you had tried to order, but we've run out. We've completely sold out of everything. We will be able to get more. Guy said that he's got more in the warehouse, correct? Yeah, Cheryl, that's true? Yep. So if you didn't get your pack this weekend, no, we'll get some next week. Just call in and order it, that's all. All right, so GSM.
Let's talk about, this is the first year. I want to talk a little bit about the winery because this is the first year that we bought a new machine. Steve and I have been wanting to buy this machine for years. It's called an optical sorter. And what it enables us to do, well, first of all, just a quick rundown of how we harvest. You've got a trailer with 3 half-ton bins and you got 40 pounds of grapes flying in and people on the trailer trying to pick the leaves out of anything not a grape. We bring it into the winery. It goes up a hand sorter, dumps into the destemmer. There's a couple things that you can't hand sort out. One's called a shot berry. It's like a little green unripened berry. The other one's called a blackjack. It's like a clove. Green bitterness. Well, they drop onto this conveyor and the first thing gone are those 2 items. And out of a half-ton of grape, you get about a 5-gallon bucket of that, which used to go into fermentation. So that's one of the best things about it. But as it goes down the conveyor, the grapes drop off into the bin. Well, there's a series of sensors, cameras tied to a computer. Of course, we had to program what bird shit looks like, what an earwig, any kind of thing that's not a grape, and it blows air and blows it off the grape. So this is a result, this first year 17 of that machine. So what a difference.
So those are pretty penny, those machines, aren't they?
What's that?
Those machines are a pretty penny.
Oh, about 100 grand.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It hurts, but you know, it's our commitment to the quality.
Yeah,
so.
But in the end, it really shows in the wine.
It does. It makes such a difference. Thank God for fermentation, but the goal is to incrementally make these wines the best that we can. And that's our commitment. The GSM's a really fun wine. You know, we make a Grenache and a Mourvèdre, but I call it in more of a natural style, meaning we don't embellish them. They're a lighter grape. And we put them on very neutral oak, so we let the vineyard dictate. Then I put about 10, this is about equal Mourvèdre Grenache, about 45, and it's about 10% Syrah, because I didn't want to overwhelm the Grenache and Mourvèdre with Syrah. So it's a beautiful example. In fact, I haven't tasted it. Let's have a sip. Wow. Oh, it's delicious.
Well, this is ready to go right out of the bottle.
Being right, it is.
Yeah.
Well, you know, one thing you're going to find about our wines is they're approachable. We're not trying to take what the vineyard gives, enhance it and embellish it, and then you have to sit on it. Hey, I want to drink wine, make wines I can drink in my lifetime, guys. You know, this is a beautiful wine.
So, you know, I'm gonna, I see some questions coming down. Cheryl is telling me to slow down. She can't drink that fast. Sorry about that, Cheryl. We'll figure this out. If there's a little, you can raise your hand, and if you want to ask a question, I can certainly do that. There's a little button that says raise hand, and I can certainly entertain questions if you want. If you're open to that, Ted?
I'm open.
Yeah.
Are we enjoying the Grenache, Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre? Ted, what's the oak on this?
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, we make the Grenache and Mourvèdre, which are the primary parts of this. We put it on very neutral oak because I don't want the oak to influence those lighter styled wines. And the Syrah that we put in, we do about 45% new French oak in our Syrah. Of course, this is barrel selected. So, you know, we're not big oakers. We're more about the vineyard, more about farming. So these wines, like I said, they're going to be more varietal-like. We're not trying to wood them up, which we could do if we chose.
Let me throw this over to Meegan. Meegan, when we were setting this thing up, we talked a little bit about what's going on at the winery. I understand that a very cool project. You're building little hotel rooms with shipping containers.
Yeah, we actually just kicked off our first, it was our Facebook Live yesterday, or on Thursday, yeah, with a tour of our B&B. It's been a labor of love. Ted is the builder. It's been about 6 years in the making.
You know, they can't fire me either.
That's why it's been 6 years. No, just kidding. But it's a beautiful B&B. It's got 8 rooms. It's actually constructed from repurposed cargo containers out of project, and we're actually have our soft opening this weekend, I believe. So we're going to be excited to have to have friends and family come and stay and kind of test it out and give us some good feedback before we open, like like a hard opening would be like on the 29th.
So what's cool about that, guys, is when you guys come out to California and you come to Cass, you got a place to stay. You can book a place and it's unique. We have horseback riding on the ranch. We raise bees. We had to do like a farm stay where you had to participate in certain aspects of the vineyard. And so it's going to be a full, experience about the vineyard, and we do cooking classes. All kinds of things are going to happen. So just put that away for when you come to California.
Yeah. And it's very, it's very easy to connect with us. You can get everything you need from our website, just casswines.com. And we're very excited to have you guys come out here and
Question, can you hear me?
Walt has a question. Yes, Walt.
Yeah, your B&B, is that on your website, what looks to be on stilts above the vineyards?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
Very cool. Everybody, can we put, if you can't see Ted, just go to gallery view, not speaker view, because if you get gallery view, you're going to get my mug or Meegan's name. So let's go to gallery view. Everybody good with that?
There's Meegan on the screen, right?
Tell us real quick, guys, where are you right now? Where are you sitting? Is that like the actual barrel room or just the?
Well, you know what's really fun is we finished this last June. We built an event center up from the main winery where we can put 1,000 barrels in it, but also we can do sit-down events for 250 people. So we're sitting in one of the auxiliary barrel rooms, and behind me, this room is like 35 feet deep, so there's probably 10 barrels deep behind me, and we're about 7 high. So we're sitting around a bunch of wine right now.
Very
nice. We don't want an earthquake, right?
I didn't even realize what was behind us.
Hey, let me ask you a question. It just kind of came to my mind. Do you guys, every vintage, set aside a certain number of your reserve wines or your regular wines and re-release them like 10 years down the road as a library set or anything like that?
We do that if we don't drink them in the meantime. We try to, we've got a pretty good stash of some of our reserves now, and we don't make enough of the reserve. We only make between 200 and 300 cases a year. But there are buys, but we wouldn't release it to the club. It would be released for sale. And we probably have about 400 or 500 bottles of some really old wines reserves we've made. We just drink.
Yeah.
Cheryl, you ready to go? Okay. All right, Cheryl's ready. So let's talk about the cab. It's called CAB.
Yeah, so
explain that.
You can pour me some cab, please. So let's talk about the cab program here. Out of this 145 acres, 80 acres approximately is all Bordeaux. So what Sterling and I do is we lay all these Bordeaux on the floor when we're going to decide how we want to blend. Of course, this is 8:30 in the morning, and we're tasting every barrel. And I don't do the spit thing. I got to figure out how to do that because I want to taste it right here. So anyway, the Cass Cab is sold in distribution only, but it's the same barrels. It's just primarily, it's just what we decide to put in it at that time. Here's the goal about this wine. I wanted to make an all-estate Cabernet that I could sell on the East Coast for under $30-something retail, or buy the glass at around $17. But the thing about these wines, there's only 600 cases made. A lot of people make a second label with thousands of cases, 600 cases. So it's a very small production, but it's a wine I wanted to have for Cheryl and Guy to sell a quality Paso Robles estate cab. So let's have a sip, guys. Ooh, and what year is this one?
17.
You know what's fun about 17? We started doing this in 14. Yeah. And I told Sterling, I want to make this wine better. So what we did is the first years were all Cabernet. We have 4 clones. What we added some Malbec in 16, but this one actually has some Petit Verdot. So what I wanted to do is not raise the price. I wanted to make it better. So this is a result of little Petit Verdot with it also. Cabernet, Malbec, and Petit Verdot. About 87% Cabernet.
And Arthur, are you guys on the 16 CAB?
Oh, my bottle. I think we're on the 17.
Okay, great.
We're on the 16.
The 16, okay, yeah.
We got a mixed batch. Mike, what is that? Mike Romero.
So 16 is going to be the one I talked about. It's going to be Cabernet with about 7-8% Malbec.
16, guys.
So it's Cabernet and Malbec, guys, and it's delicious. We're drinking 17.
Because Ted drank all the 16. Whatever Cheryl didn't sell, he drank. So we had to move on to the next vintage.
But what I want you guys to get from this though is I wanted to especially make a small production estate cab that is priced to where it's like around $30 from the East Coast, but we wanted to be able to introduce our label to people. And so this wine is superior for the cost, for the price. And like I said, 600 case production.
Yeah, it's very nice. Let me see here. You talked about used oak, and do you guys just tell us a little bit about how do you handle your oak throughout the year? So after the vintage is done, what do you do to kind of get them ready for next year?
Well, that would be a great Sterling question, but I can sort of chime in. Basically, you know, nothing's stored outside. You know, there's a thing called an oak weevil, and it'll eat your barrels alive. So we don't even sell our old barrels. We actually break our old barrels down when we're done with them, and we use it to smoke our chicken and our meats in our smoker for our restaurant. And then if you come and stay at the inn, or you come up to the cellar room, I build bars out of them, and I did ceilings in the inn out of oak staves. But pretty much we cycle our barrels through. We probably do what do you think, partner? $100,000 a year in new barrels, 60. Yeah, but we do about $65,000, $70,000 new barrels. You know, a really premium French oak is about $1,200 a barrel. So, and we're using some new Russian stuff too. We get about 6-7 a year, which is amazing.
Russian, that's pretty cool. Is the Russian wood just sort of less pungent, less just more milder, or?
No, and I can't even explain it almost. It's actually it's perfumey in the most incredible way. Very tight grained. Like I said, we can only get 5 or 6 a year. And we put that on our Mourvedre primarily, our new Mourvedre Reserve. But it's an incredible wood. You just can't get it.
I think the relationship, our winemaker Sterling has a relationship with a man that sells barrels, and I think his wife is Russian, so we have kind of a connection, kind of an in, but it's pretty difficult to acquire them in large quantities.
Very cool.
But primarily, most of our wood that we buy is all French.
You know, I'd like to speak to real quick on the pre-order sheet. We featured some of your other wines, Viognier, the Mourvedre. But we specifically put on there the Rockin Red and the Vintage Ted. They're a little pricier, they're a little higher end. I'm assuming they're your reserve. You want to tell us about that real quick, since we have some access to those ones?
Let's do the Rockin Red first. We have Rockin?
Well, it's in a Magnum.
Oh, yeah, well, I got a story.
There we go.
You see this t-shirt that I have on, guys? Here, hold on. You see that? That's a Vintage Ted t-shirt. So I'm gonna go back to South Africa. Here, my partner and I, we're sitting in South Africa in 2003, and we go, let's have a winery. We're doing this, and he goes, well, what do you want to call it? I go, well, let's call it Cass, which is my partner's last name. And he goes, well, don't you want your name on the label? I go, no, I'm the quiet one. Kick back, you know, demure. Well, he said, one day you'll have a label at Cass. Well, it took me 13 years to have time. And this Vintage Ted is an anomaly. There's a wine out of Spain called Clio. It's made by Ringland. It's an old vine Mourvedre and Cabernet Sauvignon. That was my inspiration for this wine. This is Clone 8 Cabernet, which is a very earthy clone, and it's always 70% Clone 8. It's 25% of my barrel selected Mourvedre with 5% Petit Verdot. So it's my inspiration from that wine, but it's an anomaly. It's delicious, and you know, man, it's got my face on it, for God's sake. I don't know how that happened, but always there's a saying on the back of the bottle. And in number, this is 2013, it says some people call it taste and I call it drinking. But the new one that I just bottled and it's laying down says, Ted makes me happy. So those are little my mantras. So anyway, don't be afraid to buy this wine. It's delicious, guys.
I think I speak for everyone in saying that we'd love to party with you, man. We've got 6 minutes. If anybody has any questions, you can just sort of raise your hand and unmute and ask away.
Oh, he's got the Clio.
Cleo, Walt's got the Clio.
Oh.
Good job, Walt.
Hey, I'll be there in 5.5 hours.
We sell, we get our allocation every year of the Clio and the El Nido, and it's one of our favorite wines. We just love it.
Well, I have a story to share about that. I did a wine dinner down in San Diego with Chris Ringland, and I had the vintage Ted there, and him and I had a ball talking about these two wines. We did a side-by-side tasting, and it was phenomenal.
Nice. I think I've got hey, there's Chef Mike. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. It's
Hi
great
there.
everybody again. All right, I'm gone.
You know what? We're going to get really good at this, guys. This is fun. I love this.
So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I'd like to give my friend Tommy enough time. Well, first of all, how about we do this? How about let me say a big thank you first to Guy Bell real quick. Guy, say hello if you want.
Thank you.
Thank you. A big thank you to Cheryl Zemo for helping me get these together. A big thank you to Ted and Meegan for helping us with all this. We will do this again. Hopefully we're past all this stupidity and we can meet face to face once again. But until then, this is just fine. So Tommy, give me a thumbs up if you're ready. All right, let me unmute Tommy. Tommy and I talk about the song we're gonna offer earlier in the week, and we kind of just threw this out there, and he said, yeah, I know that. So Tommy, take it away, buddy.
So we're going to do California Dreamin' for obvious reasons. Thank you, friends from Cass. These are great wines, by the way. Thank you. They're wonderful. And so I doctored up the words a little bit, but I think you'll recognize the tune. So I got to give a shout out to Dan there at WineStyles for helping with some of the lyrics. He was awesome.
Oh, no.
So here we go.
Right here off camera.
Oh, 1, 2, and all the leaves are green and the sky is blue. I went for a walk before this tasting rendezvous. I start thinking Paso Robles about some Cass Cabernet. California dreaming on such a springtime day. Stopped into my WineStyles, I passed along the way. Well, I walked up to the bar, I want some Chardonnay. You know that Daniel serves it cold, he knows I'm gonna stay. Our happy place is what we're needing. COVID-19 go away.
You haven't got anything over Mama Cass.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Love it.
I can't wait to see you guys in person and do a tasting in your shop.
I like the
Yay!
Awesome.
Hello, everyone.
So let me take control here again. Guys, I can't thank you enough for all the support that you've shown us over the past month or so since this whole dumb thing started. We love you all. We hope you're doing well and staying safe. We're going to keep this going. Just a little bit of news real quick. We'll be announcing a Giorgio's Mother's Day menu that you can order online to pick up next Sunday. and as well as a brand new menu. Those of you who have gotten takeout from us, we thank you and hope you've enjoyed it. Those of you who are shopping at WineStyles, know that we have the online platform ready to go. You can go and check out our inventory and order away. One more time out to Cass Winery. They're awesome. Can't wait to get out there myself and stay at the new pad and see you all face to face. We've got about a minute left here. I'm going to say goodbye and thank you to everybody. Cheers, everybody.
Mommy, we missed you.
Hi, everyone.
Nice to meet you, Arthur.
California screaming.
Hi, Tommy.
Good job, Tommy.
Good job, Tommy.
We miss you.
Yeah, way to go.
Miss you guys too. Love you all.
We miss you, everyone. Hey, Walt.
Everybody.
The Army.
Take care.
Just say cheers. Army. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Say hi to Mike.
Cheers.
All right, guys. See you later.
Thank you, guys.